Hello and welcome to Stockton Junction. Today I'm going to show you how to turn this into that very easily. All we need for this is 5 paints, or 4 paints and a wash. I'm using 3 brushes, a very small, a medium, and an old brush that was ruined, so I trimmed the end off and I use that as a dry brushing brush. It's very good. So the paints I'm going to use is Humbrol 34 white, Humbrol gloss red 19, Humbrol matte 33 black, Humbrol matte 64 grey, and for the wash, the paints are all acrylic, so for the wash I'm using a MIG enamel wash, and that is the dark wash. So the first stage, obviously, to get that done is painting the main box the red colour, and all the inside apart from the back wall where possible. That's why I'm using the slightly bigger brush for now. This will take a few sort of goes at, so I'll obviously stop in between drying times and come back as and when. So I'm going to start off with the inside, just easier to get that done first. You don't need to be too careful with this part. As there's no, we're going to do the rest of the inside with the grey later on. So once you've done the inside, obviously be aware that on the outer edge like there might get bits of paint blocking the holes, so just push those through, or any lumps. So now we're just going to paint the outside edge. Just remember all these little bars here, you need to go round painting them from every angle, which I will do, but I'm going to do the main part first. As you can see with these, I haven't bothered with the undercoat or base coat. They come out really nice, they take the paint really well. So just going to go and check different angles, make sure we've got all these bars. That's all right from that angle. If you get any excess paint in the corners, make sure to wipe it out. And I'm going to put it down. It's nearly ready to be left to dry off. Just going to do a last check of any lumps or missing bits anywhere. I'm quite happy with that, so I'm just going to put it down carefully. Just hold one corner while I paint most of the roof off. And that I will leave now to dry, and we'll come back for the next stage shortly. Right, so that's more or less dry. So for our next stage, we're going to do start painting the inside. I'm going to get the grey paint with the smaller brush. Actually, I'll tell a lie. I'm going to get the slightly larger brush first. Now, doing this is not the easiest thing, because obviously there's no door opening or anything. You have to do it from the bottom edge, and also the telephone box sticks out in there, so it makes it pretty hard to get in. So part of what we're going to do here, we're actually going to mess up some of our red paint work, but that's not a problem. So I've done the main part, but obviously the top at the back up there I can't reach because of that bit sticking out. So the reason I've got a smaller, really small brush is because it fits in between these holes just about. So I'm just going to go in there. And you will get some on the actual phone box, outer bits. It's inevitable, unfortunately. So just take the excess off of that. Give it a wipe across. And also what I've found is on this side here, sorry, in the camera you can see the edges of the phone there. It's worth just getting a touch in there like that. Wipe the excess off, and what we'll do once that's fully dried, we'll just touch up the outer edges there to get rid of the excess grey that's been left. There's a couple of lumps there. So that's the next stage, and we'll wait for that to dry. The outer edge is pretty much dry where I've wiped it anyway, so we could go ahead and do the touch up on that. Just See, like I said before, to move it at different angles so you can make sure that you've seen you've got all the grey. See, there's a bit of mist on the bottom there. And that's it for that bit. So the next stage, while we're waiting for the inside to dry before we can do any of the wash on it, I'm going to put some of the white on now. This white paint I've got here isn't very great. I actually thinned it down for use in a spray gun, so it's a bit runny, so it takes a good couple of coats. But that's fine. So obviously using your very small brush again, you can see the square for the wet writing there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this bottom edge of the square first. One thing I'm not going to try and do is fill the whole square from that point. Because what I find is if you try and paint this side like that, you'll get a rubbish line. I'll turn it around and do the same this side. As it has got a raised line, it will fill quite nicely. Like that. And I'm just going to touch these corners up. And leave that to dry. Obviously, you've got 3 more to do going around the foam box. I find it easier to just go round. Gone over a little bit with that one, but it doesn't matter, because if you go over it, all you need to do is touch up the red paint again. So I said this is quite thin paint on this, so it'll need a couple of coats. A bit's run on that one. That's the problem with having the paint too thin. Right, so I shall leave that for now and we'll come back to that shortly. So while I was off camera, I gave the white another coat and started touching up the red on it. Sorry, that's the wrong one. It's this one. Yep, so I gave the white another coat on the tops. And the next stage is trying to raise some of the writing a little bit. It's very hard to get to. So I'm just going to use a bit of the black matte 33. I put some on my board. And what we need to do is, using the tissue, is dry most of the paint off of the brush. It's obviously dry brushing technique. I'm sure a lot of you know how to do this, but and then what we do is we just gently start on the back one, just in case. Just going to gently rub. To try and raise some of the writing a little bit. If you go too much like that, you just try wiping it off, or if it gets too much completely, just repaint it white and have another go. Like that. Done too much on that one. I didn't dry the brush out enough. As you see, it sort of raised some of the writing. Obviously it's too small to really see anyway, so it just helps make it look better from a distance. So that's that part of it. The next part is doing the bottom of this here, this little rim, which as you can see on these is black. So get our masking tape. So what I use is this low tack tape. I think it's Tamiya product. And basically what we need to do get that nice and straight. Don't pull too hard like that, because it's low tack, it will pull off until it's got itself wrapped around. So got that in place. I'm just going to push down the edges to make sure nothing leaks through the edges. I'm leaving that tab off because it makes it easier to peel off in a minute. So we're going to go back to our matte Humbrol 33 and just paint this edge. You could obviously try doing it freehand if you want, but this is a lot easier. So that's it. And then gently peel the tape off while it's still wet. And most of the edges, that edge is really good. That one's good. That one's got a little bit of seepage, and that one's got a bit, but we can touch that up with the red a lot easier. So we'll just leave that to dry. And just clean my brush off quickly. Being a matte paint, it does dry quite fast anyway. Obviously where it's seeped through is where I haven't pushed it down hard enough around the edges. So right, so next stage is the wash, and as I said before, I'm using an enamel wash, even though I'm using acrylic paints. There's a reason for that. What I find is if I was to use an acrylic wash on this and you go too hard, or you try to rub it off if you put too much on, etc., what happens is it starts to take away the layers of the underpaint as well. So with the acrylic, it doesn't do that. So given that a shake up. So what I'm going to do is we're going to do the inside of that. Literally just going to give that complete soaking like so. I'm quite liberal with it. And that's it. And basically that will raise some of the details like that inside. It's hard to see it on the camera, but you see that the phone box details and the phone itself is standing out, which is quite good. And I'll literally just leave that to dry, lead flat, because that way the stuff seeps into. I'm just going to put a little bit more on that phone. If we leave it flat, it will seep into all the little recesses and stay there, which it's now doing. So that's pretty much it. I've just got to obviously tidy these black edges up once the wash is dry. That takes a little bit longer to dry, being an enamel wash. So that will be put aside and left for a while. We could, if we wanted, go round with the enamel wash, maybe with a smaller brush, and just try and get some of these recesses here like that. And this is where the enamel wash comes into its own, because if I get a bit of tissue, just wipe, most of that's come off. It's not going to take the paint off. There's a few little bits left in the recesses which will highlight them a little bit. Again, you can layer this wash. You can put more and more bit on at a time. It's not bad, but if you do overdo it, like so, that's obviously far too much wash. The good thing is, when you want to get this off, you can blot at it, which can give an effect like that. We're giving you a few bits of markings, so it just looks like a bit of dirt and stuff up the side of the box, which is quite a good effect. Or like I said, you can wipe it off and just leave it in recesses, etc. So I hope this has been of use to people, and I'll do some more painting guides very shortly. I'm already working on a couple more, so it won't be too much longer before the next one is out. And don't forget that if you want to buy any of the products from this company, we have a new code available, which is ongoing, which I will put in the description. So if you wish to get any of their products, you can get them with a discount. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.